I'm going to talk about 5 things that every beginner should know in boxing if they want to improve fast. And I'm also going to show you a way of being able to do each one of these 5 things with some high level tips that is simplified for you. But why should you listen to me? Well, other than having a ton of experience, including winning an Olympic medal in boxing, I've traveled the world and taught thousands of people how to box, and also taught millions of people online as well. So when it comes to teaching boxing, especially to beginners, I've got all of the experience that there is to know. So let's talk about the first thing, which is feet before hands. What do I mean by that? Well, when I see beginners in the gym, they'll often be blasting away on the bag, punching really hard and forgetting about their feet. And the reason for that is a lot of gyms, this one's a little bit better than most, you can't really move around the bag, so people forget about their feet. But to get good at boxing, you need to have good footwork, because without these being strong, these are going to be weak. Can you tell me one great fighter that's ever lived that's had bad footwork? I think I can think of 1 or 2, but can you? Well, let me know if you do, because generally every great fighter's got great feet. Now, what I recommend you think about when you're on the bag or on shadow boxing, or even if you are sparring yet, is don't throw punches while you're moving. So you don't want to be moving and punching, even though you know you can do this, I can do this because I've got experience. Instead, move around, plant your feet, then throw the punches, and then move around. Get used to moving, stopping, punching. Moving, stopping, punching. Now, I don't mean as in robotic, where you're like moving, stopping, punching. Move, stopping. I don't mean like that. I mean more fluent, where you're moving. See, I'm moving. I'm stopping my feet. Punch. Moving, stop my feet. Punch. Moving, stopping, punching. Now, a couple of things that you need to know when you're moving around, what I see beginners doing wrong all the time. And the big thing is, if I'm moving to my right, I never want to move my left foot first, because this is what happens. I cross my feet and I'm in a bad position. Instead, every time I move to my right foot first, move to my left foot first. The other thing that you need to be doing while you're moving is landing on the balls of your feet. So when I land on the balls of my feet, rather than heel toe, now I'm always in the position to throw them punches. If I land like this, I can't throw the punch. So always think about that. And the third thing is, think about having loose knees. Now, you might have had a trainer who says bend your knees. You don't want to have bent knees where you're moving around like this. Instead, you've got them loose knees. So you're moving around, moving, stopping, punching, moving, stopping, punching. Then when you get a little bit more experienced, then you can start moving and punching at the same time. But for now, if you can't move your feet correctly and be fluent with it and look good and relaxed, you don't want to start trying to move and punch and getting ahead of yourself straight away. Now, when you do that with the other tips on this video, especially tip number 4, you are going to definitely improve fast. But first, let's move on to tip number 2, which is this. Can you see what I'm doing? Can you notice? What am I doing? Come on, think. Did you guess it? Well, if not, I'm going to do the opposite of that. See what I'm doing now? At first, what I was doing, what you should be doing, is working on the basics. The basics is your best friend. If you cannot master the basics, you're never going to be able to master the pivot hook like that. Well, that wasn't a good one, but you know what I'm saying. Even if you are an experienced boxer, even if you have been going to the gym for 3 months, 3 years, 30 years like me, the best thing to practice is the basics. There's not a great fighter ever who hasn't had great basics of boxing. When I'm talking about the basics, I'm talking about that lovely jab, that lovely 1-2, the 2 hook, the little bit of head movement in between, the little slips here. We don't want to start working on pivot hooks and 7-punch combinations like we see all of this crap on Instagram, where people thinking that they're doing this fancy mitt-work stuff and they're thinking they look great, because they're not. And that's not going to get you better at boxing. But what is the basic fundamentals, especially if you're a beginner. Now, let's talk about the next big thing. And this is a mistake that I see beginners doing all the time. But what I'm going to say is men do this all the time. And I've taught thousands of women with the gym that I own in Los Angeles, but men is the worst at this. And what it is this. Watching. Here. You see what I did? I held my breath. And that, my friend, is what men seem to do when they come to the gym and the beginners are boxing. You hold your breath and you think, I'm going to hold my breath, I'm going to punch as hard as I can, and you end up getting tired straight away. And then you think, oh, this boxing game is tough. It's too hard for me. Instead, we need to relax and breathe. And I've got a great drill for you that I'm going to show you right now that you can do that's going to help you breathing and staying relaxed. And this is how I teach breathing, because although I just made fun of men there for doing this, even me, when I had 100 odd fights, it was hard for me to breathe especially when I was sparring. I used to struggle with it. Now this drill is something that I created, and when I've been teaching boxing, I always teach this to people who are struggling with breathing. And what it is, what you're going to do, you do this at the beginning of your round, if you're doing shadow boxing, is have your hands down here like this. You're going to be moving your feet, moving around, moving left, right. And I'm focusing on two things here. The first thing that I want to focus on is breathing, where I'm staying relaxed. So I'm here, staying nice and relaxed. Now I'm fit enough, you're probably fit enough to do this all day long. Now the other thing I'm thinking about is keeping my feet apart. Like I spoke about in tip 1, this is also going to help you having great feet as well. Now the reason why I've got my hands down is because it's easier to have your hands down and stay relaxed than it is when you put them up. Because every day in life, we walk around with our hands down. I hope you're not walking around like this. Now you've started boxing and you're a beginner, walking around, mooching around the streets where it's like, yeah, don't be doing that. So yeah, again, I want our hands down because we're staying relaxed here, like this. Then from there, what we're going to do, then we'll bring our hands up. Again, focusing on that nice relaxation. And then once you've got your hands up and you've done this for like 30 seconds, moving around, whether if you're shadow boxing, you can throw them punches, focusing on breathing. If you're on the bag, you can do the same thing. Focusing on breathing and staying relaxed. Now that is a great drill to help you get into the habits of being able to relax and breathe when you're boxing. And it's something that I highly recommend, my friend. And you can do this in front of a mirror when you're there and you're looking at yourself, making sure that you've got good form while you're doing it. Your chin's not up in the air, which is another beginner mistake, which I haven't got on this list, but yeah, be aware that your chin's not in the air. And now we've got 2 more tips left. Tip number 4, number 5. Number 5 is another one that men seem to do all the time as well, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me with that one. But first, I want to talk about tip number 4, which is another thing that I'm always teaching, especially beginners. Because when you come to the gym, whether you've been going to the gym for 1 month, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, what do we tend to do is we tend to try and punch as hard and as fast as we can every single time. And when you're trying to punch really fast, what tends to happen is you lose form. So if I'm throwing a fast jab, see what's happening in this one? See all the time. This will come down here. I'm forgetting about my non-punching hand because I'm focusing on trying to punch really fast. I'm trying to look better than Peter in the gym, or I'm trying to show off to Sally over there who's got the nice hair. Oh, where's these dad jokes coming from today? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So if you're punching fast, and there's not a problem with punching fast, if your form is really good. 9 times out of 10, your form is not good, especially if you're a beginner. So what I like to say is do it slowly at first and get it correct. And then once you've got it correct and your form is good, then we can pick the speed up. Because, my friend, if you haven't got great technique when you're throwing something slow, there's absolutely no chance of you having good technique of throwing it fast. So start off slow, get that perfect technique, and then when you've got that perfect technique with the jab, then we can start to pick up that speed. Do you agree with me? I'm sure you do. Okay, now this next tip is something, like I said, men are doing this all the time as well. But before I talk about this, I just want to ask you a question, really. Like, what is your goal with boxing? And why are you doing this? Are you doing it for fitness? If so, great. It's one of the best workouts in the world that you can do. Keep doing it. Are you doing it because you want to be a fighter? also great. It's a great fulfilling sport, and there's nothing better than getting your hand raised if you ever do have a fight. Are you doing this for self-defense, where you might be thinking someone might want to have a fight with you on the street and you want to, learn how to punch just to be able to defend yourself and give you that confidence? Again, great. Boxing is so good for that as well. Now, if you are doing it for one of these three things I've just mentioned there, you're going to get better results if you're doing it correctly. You understand that, right? We all understand that. But how do you know whether you're doing it correctly or not? Well, there's a course that I created called Master Boxing, where I've got over 120 videos, and I break down every technique that you need to totally excel in boxing. And there's also questions for each one of the videos as well. So all of the stuff that you're learning helps retain in your brain. This is a one-of-a-kind course that I put all of my knowledge in from my years of boxing experience and coaching experience to help you reach your full potential in boxing, no matter what level you're at. If you're interested, you can get your phone out and you can scan here. It'll take you straight through the website, or go to TonyJeffries.com and get all of the details there. Let me help you reach your full potential in boxing. Now, let's talk about this other thing that men do all the time. So the last thing that I said men do all the time, they come in, they hold their breath and they really go for it and they get exhausted, right? So now just say you don't hold your breath and you're breathing, exhaling in every punch. The thing that I see so many people doing is trying to punch hard every single time. Now, like I mentioned about the start slow and build up fast, if you're trying to punch fast all the time, your technique's not going to be great. If you're trying to punch hard all the time, your technique's not going to be great. But that being said, even if your technique was great, every punch doesn't have to be hard when you're on the bag. And beginners have got a habit of trying to punch hard all the time. And part of the reason why they're getting tired, part of the reason why you're not improving, because you're really putting everything into each punch. Instead, what I would say is throw 80% of your punches around 80% of your speed and power, and then the other 20%, 100% speed and power. So that's basically 2 punches out of every 10. You whip in them power punches. And this will help you with everything that I've been talking about on this video. But there's also something else that beginners seem to get wrong. One of the main questions I get asked all the time is, Tony, how can I improve my stamina in boxing? And it's pretty simple. And I create a video right here where I tell you some stamina tricks to help you last longer in the gym, to help you get better at boxing. So click here and watch this video next.